Chapter 8. "Where do you think you are going?" Drew asked as he entered the room. Bethany was putting on her running shoes, fully dressed. She relaxed as she saw him. "I am leaving the hospital. I'm going home." "No, you are not." Drew crossed his arms. "Bethany, your apartment was bugged. Whoever is threatening your life has access to your apartment despite the security systems in the building." "I'm going home to pick up some clothing and necessities." Bethany stood, eyeing him uncertainly. "I was wondering if you would escort me. I'm not sure where I should stay, either. I don't feel safe." "You can stay with friends," suggested Drew. Normally, he would stay with family, but Ted Searson was not a good choice. "We've brought your dad and David Ramsley in for questioning based on Dr. Urshman's statement. Miguel is going to need to take a statement from you as well." Drew neglected to mention that he was officially suspended, so he could not take any statements. He did not feel like sharing that bit of information. "I really don't remember anything." Bethany shrugged as she stared at her shoe. She was not sure how she felt about Drew arresting her father. "I went to my weekly appointment with Dr. Urshman. We were trying a new therapy with a simple sedative. When I took it—" "What happened when you took the drug?" Drew gently pressed. "I felt the old feelings of tiredness return." Bethany hugged herself. "I think my father came over. He said he was worried about me. He told me Dr. Urshman had prescribed a new regime of medications for me. He said they were very concerned over my mental health." "What is it?" Drew asked softly when Bethany paused. He carefully put a hand on her shoulder. He did not want to startle her. Bethany swallowed. She looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "He said that they were worried I might harm myself, and if I did not take my medications on time, I would be committed to psychiatric ward in the hospital, and I would never be able to come out. He told me to be a good girl." A tear made its way down her cheek. Why would he do that? Why would he threaten to commit me? Drew came forward and wiped away the tear. He could not help the action. He felt drawn like a magnet to her. "He is afraid. He knows that you know something that could potentially hurt him." Bethany frowned, her memory teasing her. She concentrated hard, a ball of dread forming in her stomach. Bethany could barely say the words. It was him. "Stop drowning her. You'll kill her." "What else can we do, Ted? She's going to tell everyone about what she saw here." "I can keep her quiet. She will not say a word. I can make certain of it." "Can you be sure?" "Give her to me." "What do you mean?" Drew was concerned by the odd tone of her voice. She looked at Drew with tears in her eyes as the memories clicked together in her mind. It was him. My father and David Ramsley on the boat. They were both there with the bricks of white drugs. It was David Ramsley that kept putting my head under water in the bathtub. It was my father who signed me up for psychiatrics and drugs to numb my memories. "How do you know?" Drew asked. If this were true, that would be motive for why Ted Searson had tried to kill her or have her committed. She was getting closer to retaining her memories, making Ted Searson and David Ramsley afraid. "I remember." Bethany hugged herself, looking at him with stricken eyes. "I remember everything." That meant that they could potentially prosecute on the case. They certainly could press for attempted murder charges. Drew also knew that both men were rich and well-connected. They would probably make bail. Even if they did not, Bethany's life was still in danger. "I'm going to take you to the police station. I want to get your full statement. After that, we'll get some of your items from your apartment if the forensics team is done looking at everything. If not, you'll just have to borrow or purchase some things." "Where can I stay?" whispered Bethany. "I'm not really safe, am I?" She was friends with the Ramsleys. However, she was accusing their father of some pretty heavy stuff, so Drew did not know how they would handle that. David Ramsley was a force to be reckoned with, and Drew did not know just how far the old man would go. She would endanger anyone she was with. "You will stay with me," he found himself saying. He mentally winced. Close proximity to Bethany was not going to help him get past her once she was out of his life. And she would leave. As soon as the case was closed and she was safe again, she would be on her way, never looking back at an illegitimate cop who was not worthy of her. Plus, this was entirely against protocol. Green would have his head for giving Bethany Searson special treatment if he ever found out. "Thank you." Bethany gave him a tremulous smile. "I feel safe with you." She also had a way of looking at him like he was some storybook hero. That had to stop. "You're welcome," he said gruffly. "Let's get to the police station so you can talk to Miguel." Bethany nodded. They gathered what little she had brought with her, signed discharge papers, and Drew escorted her from the hospital. It did not take long to get to the police station. From there, Drew would be able to find out if her apartment had been cleared by forensics, and she could return to pick up a few items. He brought Bethany to his desk, giving her his chair as he went to find Miguel. "Colburn, my office!" Green bellowed across the room. Drew winced. He obediently went into Green's office, shutting the door behind him. "What is David Ramsley doing in my jail?" demanded Green. "I have all sorts of people breathing down my neck." "He could be involved in the attempted murder of his friend Ted Searson's daughter," Drew said. He did not even bother to try to take a seat. Green was not in a good mood at all. "I have been told in no uncertain terms to cut him loose," Green growled. "The mayor is involved now." "I know that nothing is likely to stick to Ramsley." Drew leaned forward, putting his hands on Green's desk. "However, we can still hold him for 24. "Do you know who is about to come into my office?" Green pointed to the chairs. "Sit down." Drew frowned as he took a seat. "Who?" "The FBI." Green dragged a deep breath in and popped a couple of pieces of gum designed to help him stop smoking. He looked at his empty coffee cup longingly. "We've apparently stepped on their toes. More specifically, you have." "What?" Drew questioned, frowning. "What did I do?" "I will let Agent Law explain it," Green groused. "He's due here any second." "Law?" Drew growled. "Law as in the guy we arrested at the boat drop? Law who let the gang in on the fact that I am a detective?" Law came in during the middle of Drew's angry outburst. He shut the door after himself and looked at Drew with a small amount of amusement. "Yes, me." Drew sat back in his seat and refused to give in to the tirade that he wanted to. He clenched his teeth and waited. Law grabbed a chair and sat down without permission. He tossed a file on Green's desk. "I'm sorry about throwing you under the bus, Colburn. It built my reputation with the gang members and assisted me in furthering my investigation. We're very close to putting on the squeeze to those at the top tier of the operation." "Thanks," Drew muttered. Law had used Drew's downfall to further his career. Drew was not particularly enthused by that. "Am I still on suspension now that he confessed to screwing over my cover?" Law raised an eyebrow. "You're lucky you still have a job. You have just put some of my main suspects in jail. I'll need a copy of all your reports. If you're talking about David Ramsley and Ted Searson, they attempted to kill someone," Drew explained with a tinge of sarcasm. "This is huge." Green looked up from the file he was perusing. "If this is true, they need an enormous business to launder that amount of money through." "They are billionaires," Law said dryly. "They own some of the biggest chains of businesses in the country." "You're saying the cargo ship carries only drugs. They bribe their way through customs of the countries they hail from." Green pointed to the file that Law had supplied. "Yes. Then it makes a number of drops to smaller privately owned yachts and pleasure crafts around the American coastlines. The drugs are repackaged and redistributed as you have already determined with your small investigation that Colburn oversaw. This is international," Laws confirmed. "That is impressive." Green flipped through the pages of documents. "Now it's an FBI case." Drew slumped in his chair. "That's right." Law looked at Green. "I need you to release them." "No." Drew straightened up. "I am not releasing Searson. There's nothing to hold Ramsley on, which is unfortunate because I think he's up to his eyeballs in this. However, with Bethany's testimony, we have a case against Ted Searson." "You do not get to choose who stays and who is released," Green reminded Drew forcefully. "You are on suspension." "Boss, he tried to kill his own daughter," persisted Drew. "Who's taking her statement? You know you're not allowed to." Green narrowed his eyes. "Miguel," answered Drew. He knew that he was not allowed to do any police work while on suspension. It would result in cases being thrown out on technicalities. "Fine. Get me the statement." I'll have a look at it. Green motioned to the door. If I think it will hold up in court, I'll keep Searson in custody. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to let him go. Hopefully the FBI will be able to string together a better case for prosecution than you have so far. Drew firmly clamped his mouth shut that he would not say something snide in return. He rose from his chair and left to get the statement from Miguel. He tried to remind himself that Green was under a lot of pressure. It did not make Drew feel any more charitable towards the man. Miguel took one look at Drew's thunderous face and whistled. What now? You do not want to know. Drew firmly jerked back on his anger. He did not want to be mad in front of Bethany. Are you finished with Bethany's statement? Is everything okay? Bethany looked at him with concern. Drew sighed. I'll let you know what I can later. She nodded. Miguel held up the finished report for Drew. All done. Thanks, bro. Drew grabbed the file and headed back to Green's office. He knocked before entering. Drew handed the file over to Green. He decided to stay standing. Green looked it over with a cursory glance. She was drugged. Yes. Drew confirmed Green's statement. Then her testimony will not hold water. A good attorney will rip it to shreds. Green tossed the file on his desk. Both Searson and Ramsley will be released. That is nuts. Drew had a few other choice words, but went with the PG ones. They tried to kill her. You have got no proof of anything, Colburn. Green shot back at him. She was drugged, so she cannot say exactly what happened. No witnesses. Nothing to back up your theory. What about the cameras in the apartment? Asked Drew. What cameras? Demanded Green. Drew took out his cell phone and flipped to the pictures that he took of Bethany's condo. He shoved the phone across the desk. These. Green looked at them. When were these taken? Drew hesitated. You were off duty, Green said in disgust. It could be anyone's apartment. Prosecution could say that you tampered with evidence. No warrant. I did not tamper with anything. They were there in her condo. Drew took back his phone. She let me in. How deep are you in with this girl? Green eyed him shrewdly. That is not an issue, Drew said resolutely, maintaining Green's gaze. She was drugged, nearly overdosed on prescription meds. I have hospital records stating that it could have been lethal if she had not been treated. I have the psychiatrist stating that she did not give the medication that Bethany was overdosed on, and that Bethany was released, sedated, into Ted Searson's care shortly before the overdose. How does that tie in with Ramsley? Green questioned. He was there with Bethany, Ted Searson, and the psychiatrist in Ted's office, Drew said. There is an impartial witness. That's not enough to keep Ramsley, Law inserted into their conversation. No, it is not, Drew acknowledged, especially since his impartial witness was his brother, another son of David Ramsley and a gang member. Unless Searson confessed that Ramsley was involved, they had nothing on David. It's enough to hold and charge Searson. It could be the shrink, mused Green. Someone is lying about the prescription medications. I'm going to check out the pharmacies where the medications were filled. Maybe I can find something, said Drew. You're not going to do anything, Green growled at him. You are on suspension. Colby can check the pharmacies. I'm giving the case to him. I'll hold Searson for now, but I'm letting Ramsley go. If you breathe a single word about Agent Law's operation, I will not just send you back to Foot Patrol, I will dismiss you. Do I make myself clear? Green pointed at Drew for emphasis. Yes, sir, Drew bit out. I mean that. If I hear one whiff that you have informed the Ramsley family of David Ramsley's impending arrest, I will fire you, Green reiterated. I want you to drop this. You're related to Ramsley. That is a whole can of worms that should bite the department in the rear should any of this get out. From now on, you leave him alone. Am I clear? Yes, sir, Drew repeated. There was nothing else to say. Green was a hard boss, but he usually was fair. Drew did not know what Green's problem was right now. However, he would not lose his job over this, which meant he would not be able to say a word about this to Bethany. The one good thing is that Searson would remain in jail for the time being. I appreciate your cooperation in this, Law said smoothly. He picked up his original file and stood, offering a hand to Green. Green stood and shook Law's hand. Good luck. Law nodded and extended his hand to Drew. No hard feelings, I hope. Drew took Law's hand in a punishing grip. Why would there be any hard feelings? Law just smiled and extracted his hand. Drew watched him leave. Am I dismissed for the day, sir? Yes, Green said sourly. I have no idea how I'm going to explain this to the mayor. Drew did not care. It was not his problem. His problem was what to say to Bethany. He grabbed a report that Miguel had made before exiting the office. Drew gave it back to Miguel. Colby is taking over the case. Drew grabbed a chair and wheeled it over, sinking down into it. He needs to check with the pharmacies to see who picked up the prescriptions from Dr. Ershman that she swears she did not write. It is a long shot. Hopefully they had some cameras and we can get some good look at the perp. Miguel grimaced, tossing the report on his desk. Why Colby? Drew snorted. I am on suspension, and you are too close to me, being my brother-in-law. Right now, Green is favoring Colby. Don't ask me why. What do you mean that you're on suspension? Asked Bethany. I had a mix-up in a case, grimaced Drew. It fell in part, thanks in part to an FBI agent, and thanks in part to me being too eager that I did not see the warning signs. Good news is, Drew does not repeat his mistakes. Miguel tapped the file with a finger. I will give this to Colby and note the angle on the pharmacy. Hopefully we can find out if the psychiatrist is telling the truth. Ask Colby to keep us informed, requested Drew. Will do, nodded Miguel. Green says we can hold Searson for now. Ramsley is going to be let go, scowled Drew. What? According to Dr. Ershman, he was there in the office. Doesn't that make him an accomplice? Bethany asked in surprise. There is not enough proof to charge Ramsley with anything. Drew did not like it any better than she did. Are they done at the apartment? Yes, nodded Miguel. The bugs are gone and no prints at all by the time we got there. That means the cleanup was professional, even if the camera work was not, Drew remarked sourly. What happens? Bethany questioned as the thought crossed her mind that she might not be safe with David Ramsley going to be released. Do I just wait for them to try again? No, I will keep you safe, promised Drew. How? I thought they would both go to jail and I would be safe. Bethany started to fray the strap on her purse again. Guys with that much money tend to get around things, Miguel said with a shrug. Even with them in jail, I would be worried about your safety until you testified against them at trial. Are you saying they might hire someone? Bethany was astonished. My father and Mr. Ramsley hiring what would you call it? A hitman? That is not going to happen. Drew put a hand over hers, stopping her from shredding the poor purse. Right now, David Ramsley is walking away from jail. He knows we cannot touch him. That means that you are not a threat. If you are not a threat, David is not going to come after you. At least he hoped that was the case. Drew looked at Miguel. Is Green still in his office? Yeah, why? Questioned Miguel. Because I'm probably about to get booted down to foot patrol. Drew stood up. Most likely he was about to get fired. Look after her a moment. Sure. What are you going to try to do? Asked Miguel. I'm going to see if I can get Ted Searson to roll on Ramsley. Drew quickly went down to holding and checked with Fenton if he could arrange to speak to Searson. Fenton owed him one, and Drew decided to cash in on the favor. Within minutes it was all set up. Searson was seated at a table in the interrogation room, his hands handcuffed to a loop in the steel table. Drew entered the room and leaned on the table, making eye contact with the older man. Mr. Searson, this is off the record, Drew said calmly. You do not need your lawyer, and I am not going to record anything. Then what is this about? Ted Searson was not looking so good. He was sweating a little and nervous. Has anyone told you that you look just like Max Ramsley? A few times, remarked Drew. I don't want to speak about Max. You know you are David's son, right? Is this what this is about? Ted asked anxiously. He will not give you any money. He does not care about his kids. As far as I'm concerned, he only donated the DNA. I don't want anything from him. Drew crossed his arms and looked down on Ted. Then why am I here? Asked Ted. Your daughter, Drew stated, watching Ted's reactions. Is she all right? Ted asked anxiously. She'll make a full recovery, answered Drew. Physically, Bethany would. Mentally getting over the fact that her own father would have let her die? That was something else. Ted sighed in relief. "Do you think she is safe?" Drew asked quietly but with a strong voice, implying that he did not believe she would be. Ted swallowed convulsively. "I believe that someone tried to kill her." Drew watched Ted's reaction. The man had a poor poker face. "I think that someone will keep trying until they succeed." "No." Ted shook his head quickly. "She is my daughter. No one is going to hurt her." "I don't believe you." Drew pulled out the chair and sat down. He laced his fingers together loosely. "I don't think you believe that either." Ted shook his head to the negative. "Mr. Searson, Bethany is in danger," Drew quietly insisted. "Your daughter's life is in danger. She saw something on that boat, the Sweet Bethany, years ago. Now her memories are coming back, and your partner thought it would be better to eliminate Bethany before she spilled the beans and put both of you into prison. Isn't that right?" Ted stared at his hands. "He is not going to stop until she is dead, Mr. Searson. You have the power to stop him." "How?" Ted looked up. There were tears in his eyes. "You tell us everything, from the beginning. We put him in prison where he belongs, and Bethany will be safe," answered Drew. "He is too powerful." Ted slumped in defeat. Drew stood abruptly, slamming both hands down on the table, causing Ted to jump. Drew kept his voice low but forceful. "Then she dies." "No, please!" Ted began to cry in earnest. Drew leaned over until he was in Ted's face. "It is up to you to testify against him and save her, or hide like the coward you are and let her die." Drew pushed away from the table and walked out of the room. He hoped he had done enough. He leaned against the wall in the corridor to collect his thoughts. "That was a little brutal," Fenton said mildly. Drew shrugged. "They're going to release Ramsley at any moment. If Ted doesn't speak before he is out, we'll never make any progress on this case." "You gave it a fine chance." Fenton looked at Searson through the one-way window. "I would give it about 60-40 odds he talks." "The way my luck has been going, I would not bet on it," Drew said darkly. "Hopefully he asks to call his lawyer to broker a deal. You should return him to his cell before I get you in any hot water. Thanks for letting me try." "No problem. I'll let you know if he decides to blab." Fenton grabbed his keys to unlock Ted's cuffs. "Thanks." Drew left Fenton to get Ted back to his cell. Hopefully that would happen before anyone noticed he was missing. Otherwise Fenton was going to have to come clean, and Drew would no longer be one of the boys in blue. Drew had a week and a half to keep Bethany safe before he was scheduled to return to work. If he had to, he could extend it with vacation time that was owed to him. Hopefully law would make arrests in that time frame. If not, Drew was not sure what he would do. Right now, his priority was to keep Bethany safe. Drew came back to Miguel and Bethany. "How did it go?" Miguel asked. Drew shrugged. "Wait and see. Hopefully Ted Searson will confess and give us David Ramsley. If he stays silent, it is either him or Dr. Ershman who will likely get charged with attempted murder." "Do you think Dr. Ershman was part of it?" Bethany asked quietly. She liked her psychiatrist. She had trusted her completely. "I don't know. Colby will investigate further, and he will find out. He is a good cop." It hurt Drew to admit that to Bethany, but it was the truth. It would also make her feel better that the investigation was in good hands. Drew just hoped that Colby did not hit on her too much. "What do we do now?" wondered Bethany. "Should I see my father? Ask him what really happened?" "Let Detective Colby decide," advised Miguel. "It is his case. I can let him know that you offered." "I just want answers," Bethany sighed. She was tired. Drew held out a hand, recognizing her energy was flagging. It was no wonder, since she had just gotten out of the hospital. "Let's get some of your things. Then you can have a nap when we get to my place." Bethany nodded, taking his hand. Miguel looked at Drew in surprise, but Drew ignored him, steering Bethany through the police station, one hand on her back. Let that make the rumor rounds. Drew did not care. In fact, he thought it would be good. Then maybe Colby would not get any ideas about Bethany. If you enjoyed Chapter 8 of Love and Lies, Book 5 of the Ramsley Brothers series, look for Chapter 9. And remember to hit that like button. This is free for you to do and really helps with the algorithms to grow my channel. Thank you so much and happy listening!